Good morning, everyone. As you can see here, we've got all the things. All the things. We may finally get a speaker. I'm hearing in some ways that Johnson is apparently good. He's apparently good. Is apparently not a bad thing to put our horse on. And I gotta put in my...
For the House, I also think that Hakeem Jeffries needs to take his 212 votes and go home and cry like a baby. And I also think that Mr. Trump needs to kind of park it a little bit and not
my
get
headset
involved
plugged in, and I didn't even realize
he's got his own
it.
problems. And
So
I think
if it
Chuck
sounded all kind of
Schumer
wonky,
needs to
that's
get
why.
that phony fraud out of New Jersey, get him out of the Senate.
From Alan in Arizona, Republican line.
Thanks for taking the call. Appreciate it. Mike Johnson, dynamite. The Republicans will get their act together, get the 12 appropriation bills separately passed.
We're gonna have
a former Republicans,
good old good logic
Democrats.
epic rant.
Shame on you for open borders, unbridled spending.
Regarding Jenna Ellis.
Go Republican Party.
One of the things that I always appreciate
we'll
about
on your calls into the morning and into the afternoon as this process plays out.
Good logic is that he says
8,
exactly what I'm
sometimes
thinking,
8920
but
Democrats and independent or all others 202-748-8922. You can always text us. You can always post on Facebook. And you can also post on X as well if you want to make your thoughts known there. April in Pennsylvania, Democrats line.
Hi. I really hope that there are some Republicans in Congress that have some common sense and actually care about democracy. They let their party be overrun with extremists. Now, I don't understand why some of these Republicans, they're even in my state representing me, and we voted blue. Why don't they realize that, hey, we just need about 5 of us to side with the Democrats? Republicans still have the majority, so then they'll actually be passing laws that they want. So it's in the Republicans that actually care about this country, in their best interest.
Okay, and we'll have to leave it there as the process starts. We take you to the House of
Representatives. Here we go. Good logic absent rant is regarding Jenna Ellis and her turning on Trump and statements that she made in court.
The prayer will be offered by guest chaplain Reverend Jeremy Legansky from Immaculate Conception Church.
All heads bowed, eyes closed.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we praise you, we love you, and we thank you for this day. Draw near to these members of Congress. Remind them of their calling to serve the true common good. Help them to be instruments of unity, peace, and reconciliation in our country and throughout the world. Bless them, guide them, and fill them with an abundance of your grace. May they decide everything for the well-being of all, and may they never turn aside from your will. May all that they do begin from you and by you be brought to completion. In your name we pray, amen.
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 The chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces the House approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance will be offered today by
Glad
the
that they
gentleman
approved
from
the
Washington,
last
Mr. Newhouse.
Pointless proceedings.
Gentlemen, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 7 of Rule 20, I move a call of the House.
Under Clause 7B of Rule 20, the chair confers recognition for that purpose. Without objection, a call of the House is ordered. Members will record their presence by electronic device.
And so it begins. First of all, the establishment of a quorum, getting all the members that are supposed to be there on record that they are there. And then after that, what's expected, we'll be nominating speeches from both the Republican and Democratic sides. And then the actual count, each of the representatives being called by their last name, standing up and saying who they will support as the next Speaker of the House. This will play out into the afternoon and for several hours. You can stay close to C-SPAN and C-SPAN the app if you want to watch along. You can call us and give us your thoughts as well on the process. 202-748-8921 for Republicans, 202-748-8920 for Democrats, and all others 202-748-8922. Up until the point where we start the process, joining us now, Reese Gorman of the Washington Examiner.
Okay, so we don't really want to talk about that. We want to talk about good logic here. And he starts out, he kind of wants to, give Jenna Ellis a little bit of grace here, right?
Domino of Sidney Powell is not very significant, but the push onto Jenna Ellis of like, oh, she got a deal, maybe I'll take a deal. That's sort of his human nature. And
he's talking about, how you get one person who, stumbles, takes the deal, and eventually someone else, oh, well, she got a really good deal, so yeah. And he's right.
And she's not the first one into the pool to turn on him, so it makes it easier for her to turn.
Absolutely.
And to be fair, I want to point this out also. A lot of people in my audience, you might be one of these people who thinks that Jenna Ellis is the ultimate slime for turning on Trump.
She is.
And I'm not going to say you're right or wrong on that.
Well,
what I am going to say is this.
You're not right or wrong,
gross.
but
it feels disgusting. It feels awful. It feels like ew, what the hell is wrong with you? You're a terrible human being.
Exactly. Because she is a terrible human being.
And yet I can recognize that I'm not the one who's facing criminal charges and potentially
fair.
a lengthy sentence.
This is
in
the
prison.
part where he's being fair.
And even though these charges are corrupt, in my opinion, that they are disgusting corruption and weaponization of our justice system.
Preach.
I can't ignore the fact that she was facing a lengthy prison sentence, unless she basically caved and did what they wanted. Now, would you or I hope that she would stand strong in the face of that and say
I know. For some reason, I knew. I saw it coming early on.
Would we like to think that we ourselves in that position would do the same? Of course we would. Would we actually stand up and say, Fannie Willis, go to hell? I am not going to sit here feeding you the lies that you want. I'm not going to be your little parrot who's singing whatever words you throw into my mouth. And I'm going to stand by my conviction here because I did nothing wrong. And this is all complete corruption. Yeah, we'd like to think that we would do that. But unless...
I mean, that's true. I hope that I would, but who knows what I would actually do when I'm in that situation. I know someone, I'm trying to think of who it was. He's like, this was a while back, when we were talking about somebody that pleaded to something that he was trying to come back and say, I know I pleaded, but I didn't really do it. They were trying to say, I would never cop a plea to something like this if I didn't do it, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, it's easy to say when, it's not your ass that's on the line.
You're there. Unless you...
And it happens all the time. People plead to stuff that they didn't do because the way the prosecution might be presenting things, they're twisting what the truth is. You know, the way they're framing it. Sometimes something can sound bad, but you're still not actually guilty of doing anything.
Are the person facing the music, you do not know that you would. Now, maybe you personally have faced something like that, and you've stood up to it, and you've braved those potential storms. And if you have, I tip my cap to you, and I say, my God, you're an amazing person. That shows amazing character. And we all like to think that we have that character. I like to think that I have that character, and that I would stand up to it. Until someone's there, they do not know. Until you are there, you do not know. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Now, do I like her position on DeSantis? No, I think she's an idiot. I think she's a moron. I think she's a child. Do I know what personal reasons she might have for going after Donald Trump? No, and maybe he gave her a good reason behind closed doors. For all I know, he's a freaking animal. I mean, he puts up a nice front, but maybe behind closed doors, he's kind of a huge jerk. It's possible. Great president, but maybe behind closed doors, kind of a huge jerk. There's a lot of evidence that a lot of people, when they part ways with Donald Trump, they're not big fans of his. So maybe he is a jerk. Maybe his being a jerk is part of why he ended up becoming such a phenomenal president. I don't know. I don't know him personally. You likely don't know him personally. I'm simply saying that whatever is going through her mind, and I'm not sitting here saying that she was right for doing this, because I can't say that, because to me it seems to be lacking in moral character. At the very least, I can understand it. And I think it's sad that she was put in this position.
It is.
And I wish that
absolutely.
she would have had the fortitude to stand up to it and tell Fani Willis to go to hell. And that failing of hers to do that, unfortunately, is a common weakness in the human condition. So I'd like everyone who is facing that music to have the conviction to basically band together and say, you got nothing, you're a loser, and I'm not caving. But none of us should be surprised that some people basically took the carrot and said, hey, look, I'm out of here. I'm done with this whole deal. And if I can walk away from any potential jail time and have to face the music for these ridiculously bogus charges by basically turning on someone else, I got a life. I've got family. I've got spouses, children, parents, cousins, siblings, neighbors, a career. I didn't sign up for this. So I'm not giving a pass, but I am going to say that it's not shocking, and she's unfortunately, humans can struggle to live up to what they aspire to be. With that,
oh wait, what?
Why is the middle. I'm not going through the whole 20 minutes. But this is before she actually started talking. They're reading off all the different terms of this thing.
There being no record of those ballots having been returned to a county election office. 2, that 2,506 felons voted illegally in the November 3rd.
Yeah, I haven't heard what she said. And I'm gonna try to decipher everything she says. I haven't heard anything that she said. Possibly.
2020 presidential election in Georgia. 3, that 66,248 underage people illegally registered to vote before their 17th birthday prior to the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election in Georgia. 4, that at least 2,423 people voted in the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election in Georgia who were not listed as registered to vote. 5, that 1,043 people voted in the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election in Georgia who had illegally registered to vote using a post office box. 6, that 10,315 or more.
Big Boop, who I forgot to read off Super Chat from the other night, and I apologize for that. It says, Joe, I'm alive. I put the phone down to multitask, but said I'd be back for the horn, but you were too concerned about me and forgot to let it blow. I didn't forget. I didn't forget. I hit it and didn't realize that that was a boomerang. And that's why I gave it back.
4 dead people voted in the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election in Georgia. And 7, that Fulton County election workers at State Farm Arena ordered a poll
These are
watcher
all
and members of
statements
the media
that
to
were
leave the
falsely- that
tabulation
were
area on
poorly
the night of
false.
November 3rd, 2020, and continued to operate after ordering everyone to leave. The false statements were within the jurisdiction of the Georgia Secretary of State and the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, who were each conducting investigations into allegations of fraud in the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election in Georgia. Once completed, these and others investigations affirmatively determined that there was no widespread fraud that could have affected the outcome of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. The false statements were made with reckless disregard of the truth and with conspicuous purpose to avoid learning the truth. The defendant attended and abated Giuliani Smith in making these false statements by assisting with the execution of the December 3rd, 2020 Senate Judiciary Committee meeting that was held in Fulton County, Georgia. The false statements were used as part of a plan by the Trump campaign to solicit the Georgia General Assembly to disregard the certified results of the presidential election in this state and instead to unlawfully appoint non-elected presidential electors in violation of their oaths to the Georgia Constitution and to the United States Constitution. Similarly, false statements and solicitations were made to state legislators in Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and the defendant was present and assisted with the execution of those meetings. And she was in attendance with Giuliani in Arizona and Michigan and Pennsylvania. That would be the factual basis in which the state would have proceeded on, Your Honor.
All right, anything further from the state, Ms. Young?
Just that we filed a motion of null prosecution under the original indictment.
All right, turning to Mr. Hogue, just a few matters of housekeeping before I let you have the floor. If there's
Richard Hogue, defending Jen Ellis. No, it's not.
anything else you want to add, would you be requesting automatic sealing on this first offender disposition?
Yes, that's one of my two notes here to ask the court if you would do that under 42.862(1)B, please.
All right, and was part of this negotiated resolution, is there anything to note here about a behavioral incentive date?
Yes, Your Honor, that's going to be 3 years.
Mr. Hogue, is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Hogue, that you would like to add?
Yes, if you could make a note that this is not a crime of moral turpitude, that would assist us in other venues, perhaps.
And is that an issue of negotiation between the parties? I know that has differed from resolution to resolution here. So where are we with that?
It is not, Judge.
In another minute or two here, Joe Logic is going to express surprise about, it's like, wait a minute. She wants to make a statement? She didn't need to make a statement. None of the others made a statement.
I'm going to ask that the same verbiage that has been put on the other dispositions be put on this disposition as well, which I believe it says like the defense in the state have agreed that this
just
is
in
not
case
a
there was
crime
any
of
doubt,
moral
her
turpitude.
statement sucks balls.
Which to Ms. Fortas when we leave.
So just to clarify, it's not a point of contention between the parties. It's being jointly recommended, this language. And is that the case for, because I think we needed to enter amended sentences on the prior resolutions reflecting that. Is that the same for
I
all
knew
three
it was
prior
going to be
resolutions
bad,
in this case?
but it takes.
Okay. All right, then if that is the joint recommendation, that'll be part of the global recommendation. Understood, Mr. Hogue.
Your Honor, the only other thing is if the court is inclined to accept the negotiated plea, Ms. Ellis would like to exercise her right of allocution and make a brief statement.
She asks for right of allocution? Right. She's asking for right of allocution?
Uh-huh. That look.
You didn't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Jenna, you didn't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
She's exercising her right of allocution. That seems curious.
Oh. Yes.
So
it's curious
I think I would typically have that as part of the record before we finalize.
Allocution is where she makes her personal statement. We didn't see that with Sidney Powell.
That's everything. So at this point, Ms. Ellis, you're not required to do so in any way. But if you would like to add anything to the record or address the court, you're certainly willing to do, able to do so.
He had such high
and
hopes
that would be
for
the
her a
appropriate
little
time.
bit ago.
If I may approach.
She seems very eager to do this.
Yeah.
She seems very, very eager to do this. I'm quickly losing respect.
I have it in writing what she's about to say.
I have one attached to State Exhibit 1. Is that the same?
Oh, yeah. You have it already.
Okay. And so would the intention be that this
Jenna, you're getting me
also
angry.
be going into the record as States Exhibit 1, the written form?
You get me angry,
Okay.
Jenna.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hogue.
Thank you, Your Honor, for the opportunity to address the court. As an attorney who is also a Christian, I take my...
Oh my God.
At this point, I'm listening to this at work and I'm like, she's not even 10 seconds into it, but Joe, it gets better.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's now you're going to make this a religious sacrifice of Donald Trump. That's what this is.
I was talking at work like he could hear me while I was watching it. It gets better, Joe. Wait for it.
This is a religious sacrifice. Oh, I'm getting mad. Jenna, you're making me angry. You're making me angry, Jenna. You're making
Wouldn't
me
like
angry.
Joe when he's angry.
As a lawyer very seriously.
Oh my God.
And I endeavor to be a person of sound moral and ethical character in all of my dealings.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I feel like she's reading from The Crucible here, where she's like one of those people caught dancing around the fire and basically saying how she was like possessed by Tituba or something like that.
In the wake of the 2020 presidential election, I believed that challenging the results on behalf of President Trump should be pursued in a just and legal way. I endeavored to represent my client to the best of my ability. I relied on others, including lawyers with many more years of experience than I.
Oh, now she's going to talk about, I was too young and dumb to know better. Oh,
just a
man.
babe.
Oh,
just
man.
a babe, Joe.
To provide me with true and reliable information, especially since my role involved speaking to the media and to legislators in various states.
Just an innocent babe.
What I did not do, but should have done, Your Honor, was to make sure that the facts the other lawyers alleged to be true were in fact true. In the frenetic pace of attempting to raise challenges to the election in several states, including Georgia, I failed to do my due diligence. I believe in and I...
The tears and all this other stuff. My God.
I know.
Oh my God.
I value election integrity. If I knew then what I know now, I would have declined to represent Donald Trump in these post-election challenges. I look back on this whole experience with deep remorse.
That wasn't very chivalristic of you not to have some tissues on hand for her. The look on his face. Like, he was quiet for so long, I was like, is Joe okay? Because I'm at work looking at stuff, and I'm hearing this long pause, and I'm going up at my phone, I was like, what happened to Joe? I just saw the look on his face, and I was dying. I'm like, I'm dead.
She changed.
I'm dead.
Recently. The message to potential donors on the Gifts and Go fundraising site is a short one. Jenna Ellis, former senior legal advisor and personal counsel to President Trump, is being targeted, and the government is trying to criminalize the practice of law. Help her fight back and stand for the truth. That's how she raised $200,000 from Trump supporters.
And it was why I never gave.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Wow, that's why I never gave, Joe.
Of mine, Your Honor.
Mind you, I don't know that, I don't believe, as I recall, Joe never donated either. You know, usually if he'd done something like that, he would have been very open to us. But it's the reason I never donated, because I just knew that this plea deal was coming. But this speech, allocation, whatever it's called, I didn't see this coming.
I have taken responsibility already before the Colorado bar who censured me, and I now take responsibility before this court and apologize to the people of Georgia. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Ellis, for sharing that. All too often, I don't get to hear the perspective of the accused in these cases, and so that's appreciated.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Is there anything else, Mr. Hogue, that you would like to have as part of the record?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Ellis, I have a few questions that I have to go over with you.
Just breathe, Joe. I know with all those e-cigarettes you've been using, it might be hard because those really aren't good on your lungs.
That feels very sneaky.
I know.
Do you understand the nature of this charge that as it's been reaccused against you?
I do.
And you heard the rights that you would waive by going forward with this plea. Do you still wish to waive those rights?
Yes.
And are you pleading guilty today because you agree that...
Jacob, people have a choice to get nothing when asked by any kind of fundraisers. That's correct. But when you give to a fundraiser under the belief that that this person is going to fight for truth, which is clearly a sufficiently vague way of trying to say, I'm going to stand up for the fact that this entire conviction process and everything that's happening here is a political persecution, which is what she's basically saying. I'm being persecuted for my practice of law and standing up for truth. And you're basically saying that you're basically purposefully implying to people that they should donate money to you because you are fighting for the truth, and you know that the people who are reading this, the people who...
No offense, Joe, but you ranting about the money involved in this as a Jew is kind of ironic. I love you, Joe.
are going to give to you because they believe that Donald Trump was wronged in the 2020 elections, and you use that to help raise money, and then you get up there and voluntarily make an allocution where you basically say, I can't believe I was wrong. I was led astray by these other attorneys. If I knew all these terrible things, I never, ever would have taken this case on. This is so not my fault. I can't believe I was led astray, and I feel bad that I didn't look more deeply into the matter before I actually knew about it. When did she come to that awakening? When was that was that in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, when she had her whole give me money? And she's like, I'm fighting for truth. That's why you should give me money, because I'm fighting for truth. That's what she basically said. She said, I am fighting for truth. Give me money while I fight for truth. And then she gets up there and voluntarily makes an allocution where she doesn't have to say anything, but no. I have to run before everyone and become hailed as by the left as some new convert to their stupid religion, and basically say how terribly wrong and led astray I was by the likes of Donald Trump and his nefarious team of attorneys. And oh, boo-hoo me, I feel so bad. Please give me forgiveness. Mea culpa. I feel so bad. Please accept me into your church. Because I'm a Christian woman, please accept me in. Oh my God. No. No. That is wrong. That is completely wrong. I started this off. Before I saw that. I started this off by basically giving, despite the fact that I knew that many of you probably looked at her as being a turncoat and a traitor. I was like, look, you really need to put yourself in her shoes and ask yourself if you would do things differently. That's what I started with. I did not come here seeking to throw her up on a cross or toss her in a fire or something of that nature. I was not looking to say burn the witch. You saw me do that. You saw me react in real time because I told you I hadn't seen the second half of this. I didn't know she allocuted. I was too busy on Spaces today. I didn't know anything about this, and I came in here before you, 700 of you in one place, and 300 in another place, before 1,000 people live, and I basically said to you, hey, look, I understand it looks bad, but you have to give the benefit of the doubt. You have to sort of understand that this is not something that you ever had to face before, that you're facing decades of your life potentially in jail. And yeah, while we'd like to all believe we would stand up strong, how can we know for sure that we would, giving her every possible benefit of the doubt? And this witch comes up here after saying, I'm going to stand up for truth, give me money for truth, comes up there now and basically says, I didn't know any better, this is not my fault, as if she had some sort of awakening after the fact, and then now she's been alerted to the truth and everyone should accept her. She didn't have to make this speech. She didn't have to say anything of the kind. She should have just said, no, I have nothing to say, thank you, Your Honor. And then if forced to say whatever she's forced to say to testify about, then you do that. That's what you do if you're actually acting with integrity. That's what you do if you're actually acting. You say, look, I really wanted to stand up, and it's possible that this could happen, that at first she's like, hey, I want to stand up for truth. I'm going to fight against this, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to fight this tooth and nail. And then she got to a point where she was like, her lawyers are telling her, look, this looks bad. You really could end up spending a lot of time in prison. We really think that they're offering you a plea deal that you must take. It's terribly stupid. From a legal perspective, think of this as a lawyer. From a legal perspective, it's terribly stupid for you not to take this deal, even though you might feel like a rat, you might feel badly about it, and talk her into it. That I could understand. That's basically what I was trying to justify. Not for her to get up there like she's, I don't know, Goody Abigail or whatever else you have from the Crucible, crying about how she was infected by the spirit of Donald Trump and couldn't possibly control herself because she was under the sway of these far more serious and far more experienced attorneys, and she just didn't know better as some innocent spokesperson who was a lamb, who didn't understand the terrible nature of what she was doing or what was happening there, all the lies that she was being fed and that she repeated to everyone else that she never, ever would have done, except when she was raising money from the people who were basically supporting that. Oh yeah, I took tons of money. I took $200,000 from these people, from these people, who I'm then going to turn around and allocute, voluntarily get up there and speak when I don't have to basically say how I'm some martyr, I'm some hero, I'm some person who was led astray, but now I've been brought into the healthy church because I'm a good lawyer and a good Christian woman. Good Lord, how sanctimonious. She should be supporting Ron DeSanctimonious. How disgusting is it that you come forward after trying to raise money, use this as a situation to raise money for your defense, and look, maybe it didn't cover all expenses. She claims it doesn't. I don't know what her legal expenses are. Her legal expenses could be hundreds of thousands of dollars by now. I don't know. It's definitely possible. But for her to come forward and beg people for money on that basis, and then obviously not be pushed into this by her lawyers, but happily go jumping into it by basically allocuting. This allocution is outrageous. It should disgust everyone, and that smirk on her face. Look at the smile on her face, that smug look on her face after she finishes her stupid little performance there. I didn't know any better. She's so happy and so smug about it. Oh my God, this is disgusting. This is awful. No. Every defense I gave her before, I withdraw that. I retract it. I am a sinner. I am a good religious person, and I ask for your forgiveness that I stood up for this woman, because right now I am disgusted by her. I think there's something wrong. I think there's something really deeply disturbing wrong with this person, that you would come forward, and after you took all that money from countless strangers who were looking to help you stand up and fight for truth, that not only did you give up in that fight, which I could understand that, I could forgive that, I could say that's okay, but for you to come forward now and basically start looking for the blessings of the left, which is the only reason you do this allocution. The only reason you do this is that the media will come forward and start hailing, oh, Jenna Ellis is our newest convert. She's so wonderful. She's so great. She's going to bury Trump. Ha, ha, ha. She's going to bury Trump. That's why she's doing this. That's why she did this. That's the only way I can understand this. And to me, that is gross and disgusting. It is sickening. It is really, really sickening. My God. Smug. Good luck, Ron DeSantis. Go support him. Go support him. He's got a real chance. He's got a real chance. I was around Blackboard 200 times. I was wrong. So Ellis' plea is like jab versus job, but she crowdfunded money not to turn, and she's also now a RDS supporter. Yep. It's way better with Jabba the Hutt audio instead.
He plays a little bit of this.
I don't know what that's a reference to. Went from laughing to crying, calling BS. Eyelashes on so face doesn't smudge. Yeah, she went from laughing to crying. She did, in a heartbeat. She was sitting there all happy, and then she went to crying. Lousy actress. Blood-sucking lawyers, who can you trust, right? Don't forget she wanted DJ Tate to pay for her defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. She did. Jabba version in your locals, just saying. Let me check out my locals.
He plays a little bit of this, and then we'll end with that. The only thing that I was confused by is that he was surprised by anything that Jenna Ellis had to say. Like, it was, I should have seen it coming up, honestly.
I'll come to that in a moment. Royal Wolf says this woman will heretofore be known as.
I want to get to the part where he plays.
This is awesome. Let's check this out. All right. I don't get it. Unless it's a weight joke. Maybe it is. Sure, she'll be getting a fat check from a third party, maybe from Ukraine. Yeah. And yeah, Trenton, you missed a really good rant. You probably want to go back 10 minutes. I had a pretty good rant about Jen Ellis.
It was pretty epic. If you've never checked out Good Logic, either on Rumble or on YouTube, you really should. My favorite thing that he does is his rants. So as you can see, we are still waiting for them to finish the quorum. And today, we are voting on whether or not we want Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. It appears that he stands a pretty good chance. I would kind of like to think that today's the day. However, here's something interesting. According to DC Drano, Mike Johnson gets an F for supporting Ukraine. This means he gets an A+ for supporting Republican voter interests. What? Oh, so he hasn't supported Ukraine? Oh, this was... I want to jump over here and share one quick thing. Apparently, he thought it was illegal for Nancy Pelosi to do this, and I don't know that that's ever kind of the case. This kind of makes me...
So you were obviously watching there at the State of the Union. When you saw the Speaker rip the President's speech into pieces, did you take that as a sign of politeness, as an expression of kindness and friendship?
No, of course not. I mean, it was a shameful display. It was stunning, really, to many members sitting in the House. It was totally unprecedented. It was shameless, and it was also unlawful, Tucker. You know, a lot of people have been talking about this the last 48 hours, and I did a little legal memo to point out to my colleagues that she actually committed a felony when she tore that paper up. It wasn't just any copy of the State of the Union address. It was the copy, the original. And we have over 2 centuries of custom and tradition, and of course the Constitution that calls for the State of the Union address, that when the President delivers the copies to those top legal officers, the 2 top legislative officers in that co-equal branch of government, those are the official documents of the House. And if you tear those up, you violated a specific statute in the criminal code.
So you were obviously watching there at the State of the Union. When you saw the Speaker rip the President's speech into pieces, did you take that as a sign of politeness, as an expression of kindness and friendship?
No, of course not. I mean, it was a shameful...
I can agree with that. But maybe she did. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm missing something. Wouldn't be the first time. I'm a single white 42-year-old female, after all, with a cat. So, us single white females with cats, we We missed a lot, I'm not gonna lie. But let's see part of his Mike Johnson's speech last night when he was finally confirmed. You'll notice this was something that was pointed out by Good Logic, and I will echo this. When Jim Jordan got appointed to be a candidate, they didn't do this, but they were very excited here.
We want to thank all the press for waiting. It's been quite a process. Democracy is messy sometimes, but it is our system.
They didn't have
this conference that you see, this House Republican majority is united. I'm honored to have the support of my colleagues, and what they understand about this is servant leadership. We're going to serve the people of this country. We're going to restore their faith in this Congress, this institution of government. America is the last best hope of man on the earth.
You know, some of them are kind of going, yeah, whatever, sure we are. Don't care.
Abraham Lincoln said it. Ronald Reagan used to remind us all the time.
Just
going
gonna
to
smile and nod.
Again. We're going to restore your trust in what we do here. You're going to see a new form of government, and we are going to move this quickly. This group here is ready to govern, and we're going to govern well. We're going to do what's right by the people. And I believe the people are going to reward that next year. But we have a lot of big priorities ahead of us right now. The world is on fire. We stand with our ally, Israel.
Why does this douche have a mask with him? Come on. This guy looks like he does not want to be there.
We have appropriations bills to get through the process, but you are going to see this group working like a well-oiled machine. We owe that to the American people. The people up here have been sent here by the people of this country to do this job, and we're going to do it well. We commit that to you. Thank you for allowing us to go through the process and get to this. It was worth it, and we are going to serve you well. The intention is to go to the House floor tomorrow and make this official, and so we will be doing that.
They are still doing
the quorum. If there are any questions, we'll take a couple, but we're all pretty weary. What's that? The intention is to go at noon tomorrow. How many votes did you get? I don't know. All of them. Yeah, we have some folks absent, and I'll be working with them tonight. So. I don't know what the final total was. We're united. We're united. We're united. There were no votes against.
Mr. Johnson, you helped lead the efforts to overturn the 2020 election results.
Next question. Next question. I am very confident. One more question?
Yeah, why don't you give more room for the cameras, not the still, for the love her. I love it.
Maria Salazar is our media director.
You've asked your question.
You asked your question. Go away.
We're not doing policy tonight. Any other questions? Other than that, thank you for being here. Let's
Should we be happy that all of them are so excited, or should that give us pause? Should we be suspicious about the fact that all of a sudden they're all like, yay? Maybe. Did they have a quorum? I hope they have a quorum. Assuming they do. It's fine. Something to replace the Good Logic video with. I think we're gonna do another view of Gaza here. Because it does seem like we are hearing some boom booms. See what the latest news is according to the OSINT things that I follow on Twitter. "20 seconds ago, according to OSINT Defender, the statement by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and the IDF spokesman has been delayed by 1 hour until 8:45 p.m. And this is not good. Breaking update by Jackie Heinrich. A U.S. defense official tells Fox News 30 U.S. service members have been injured in drone and rocket attacks in the last week. These are minor injuries, the official said. Several members suffered from TBIs, but have all returned to duty via Liz Frighten. Whoever that is. Okay, here we go. Back on the record.
Are all members recorded?
Trey Inc. says Israelis are hammering one specific location in the northern part of Gaza. We see numerous airstrikes on the same spot over the last hour.
On this roll call, 429 members have recorded their presence.
There we go.
The question now recurs on the election of Speaker. The tellers will please come forward to take their seats once again. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I didn't even notice.
Unless they are using C-SPAN's feed, I may have to try to go back again to C-SPAN because this may not give us the count on screen. C-SPAN is good at that here, so we're gonna go back. C-SPAN decided, oh, I guess we'll go back live again on YouTube. I think we could have gone to their actual website, but it's just easier just to stay on YouTube.
All right.
Excuse me.
The nominations are now in order. The chair now recognizes the gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Stefanik.
Mr. Speaker Pro Temp, Madam Clerk, colleagues, on behalf of the House Republican Conference, I rise today to nominate the gentleman from Louisiana, Mike Johnson, as Speaker of the People's House.
This isn't a high school football
game. We convene this esteemed body today at a time of great crisis across America.
No,
a
high
time
school
of
football
unprecedented
game would
challenges in this hallowed chamber. And a time when our most precious ally, Israel's very existence, is under attack from forces of evil. Yesterday, our dear colleague, our former conference chair, our chair of Energy and Commerce, Cathy McMorris Rodgers, nominated Mike Johnson in our conference. And she put it best, and I want to quote her today. She said, quote, "Trust has been broken and we have come to a standstill. How do we restore trust between members, leadership, and ultimately between Congress and we the people?" Cathy went on to say, "There's a sense that it cannot be business as usual." She went on to note, above the Speaker's chair in the House chamber is our nation's motto, "In God we trust." Ms. McMorris Rodgers went on to say, "The times in which we are living demand boldness, unity, and transformational leadership that begins with trust in God and each other. Trust is when the magic happens. In the story of King David, we are reminded that man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart, end quote. Today is the day that House Republicans will humbly look in our hearts and elect Mike Johnson as Speaker of the People's House. A man of deep faith, Mike epitomizes what it means to be a servant leader. A deeply respected constitutional lawyer, Mike has dedicated his life to preserving America's great principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mike is a titan on the Judiciary Committee and a dedicated member of the House Armed Services Committee. And as vice chair of our conference, he has united all of our members to speak clearly and boldly on behalf of the American people. A friend to all and an enemy to none.
The live event has ended.
Strong,
Well, boo-hoo.
tough, and fair. And above all, Mike is kind. And at this very moment, this Republican conference knows that we live in perilous times and the American people are hurting. Families are struggling under the pain of inflation caused by reckless far-left spending, unable to afford groceries, heat, or gas. We have an inhumane open border with millions illegally smuggled and trafficked, and tens of thousands of children lost in the chasm of the incompetence and negligence of the Biden administration. Israel is under attack by Iranian-backed Hamas terrorists committing atrocities, with Israelis suffering the bloodiest days in modern memory. Crime is skyrocketing on our streets, while there are vicious calls from the left to defund our great men and women in blue. American energy production has been crushed by Joe Biden's radical, failed, far-left Democrat policies, causing seniors, farmers, and families to pay more at the pump. And Americans fundamentally understand that the federal government has been illegally weaponized against we, the people, shredding the Constitution, targeting conservatives, parents, yes, I'll say it again. The federal government has been illegally weaponized against we, the people, shredding the Constitution, targeting conservatives, parents, and even Joe Biden's top political opponent. The people are looking to this great chamber to save America, and save America we will. And as we embark on the path ahead, I am reminded of Galatians 6:9. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. House Republicans and Speaker Mike Johnson will never give up. Today is the day we get this done. May God bless our next Speaker, Mike Johnson. May God bless the United States of America. And I yield back.
I mean, they all seem really very excited, and so I'm hopeful that, maybe this will finally be it.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker pro tempore.
Trying to find
I notice a little bit more of a smile on your face today than we have in the past.
I'm really interested in this statement that might be coming from Netanyahu and the IDF soon.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today at the direction of the Democratic Caucus to place into nomination for the position of Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries from New York.
Whatever. I don't know why you bother. He's not getting voted.
Mr. Speaker, you may agree with this, but we are back here 22 days into this Republican-manufactured chaos, and House Republicans have brought us to the exact same position that we were back then. All of the infighting, all of the disarray, just to end up where we were 3 weeks ago. These past few weeks, we have been left wondering if Republicans were truly intent on solving our issues, reopening the House of Representatives, and rallying around someone to lead this chamber. Or has this been about something else? Has this been about a focus of House Republicans to find the person who can pass their extreme litmus test to oppose marriage equality, enact a nationwide abortion ban without exceptions, gut Social Security and Medicare, and support overturning a free and fair election? It's a fair question. It's a fair question. No one.
Go ahead and make your grandstanding. You're not getting your way today.
Is it about growing
Not
the middle
today,
class,
Satan.
helping our communities, keeping the cost of health care lower, and making life for everyday Americans better? The gentlewoman from New York said it right. This has been about one thing. This has been about who can appease Donald Trump. House Republicans have put their names behind someone who has been called the most important architect of the Electoral College objections. He's spearheaded, that's fair, we know how you feel. Yeah, you've made that clear. He's spearheaded the legal effort, joined by more than 100 of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, in support of a dangerous and baseless lawsuit to overturn the results of the 2020 election. On the eve of January 6th, some of my Republican colleagues even called this a failed strategy. Yet those same individuals plan to stand right next to him today. Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, House Democrats believe that when members of this body voted to reject the results of the 2020 election, they forfeited their ability to lead this chamber. On this side of the aisle, we know what leadership looks like. Hakeem Jeffries has never turned his back on the will of the American people. The son of two social workers, he's always stood by the side of working families. The most pressing needs of everyday Americans are his North Star. He believes that everyone in America should have the opportunity to get ahead and achieve their version of the American dream. He believes that access to affordable health care is a right, not a privilege. He believes that reproductive freedom must be guaranteed, not stripped away. He believes that working families, not the wealthy and the well-connected, should be rewarded. He believes in growing the middle class so that everyone can succeed. He believes that our schools and our communities should be safe and free from gun violence. He believes that investing in public schools, not depriving students of fact-based education by banning books. He believes in taking care of our seniors and our veterans, not slashing their benefits. He believes in living up to the promise that America is a beacon of hope and a land of opportunity. He believes in defending democracy against all enemies and adversaries, foreign and domestic. He believes in standing by our allies, Israel and Ukraine. And he believes in keeping our government running and open. Let me be clear. This is not just a belief system. Leader Jeffries has the track record to back it up. He is certainly a far contrast from who Republicans have nominated, with or without their votes, to nominate today. But if House Republicans choose, they can still join us on a bipartisan path forward. Let's come together to fund our government, support our allies abroad, and deliver for working families. End the chaos and the dysfunction, end the extremism. Let's open up the people's house. I yield back, Mr. Speaker.
The reading clerk will now call the roll.
Adams. Jeffries. Adderholt. Johnson. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford. Johnson. Allen. Johnson. Allred. Jeffries. Amadei. Johnson. Armstrong. Johnson. Arrington. Johnson. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. Johnson. Bacon. Johnson. Baird. Johnson. Balderson. Johnson. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. Johnson. Barr. Johnson. Berrigan. Jeffries. Bean of Florida. Johnson. Beatty. Jeffries. Bentz. Johnson. Barra. Jeffries. Bergman. Johnson. Beyer. Beyer. Bice. Johnson. Biggs. Johnson. Bilirakis. Johnson. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. Johnson. Blumenauer. Jeffries. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Johnson. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bost. Johnson. Bowman. Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Burkeen. Johnson. Brown. Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries. Buchanan.
Mike Johnson.
Johnson. Buck. Johnson. Bouchon. Johnson. Bazinski. Jeffries. Burchett. Johnson. Burgess. Johnson. Burleson. Johnson. Bush. Jeffries. Calvert. Johnson. Kamek. Johnson. Caravello. Jeffries. Carbajal. Jeffries. Cardenas. Jeffries. Carey. Johnson. Carl. Johnson. Carson. Jeffries. Carter of Georgia. Johnson. Carter of Louisiana. Jeffries. Carter of Texas. Johnson. Cartwright. Jeffries. Kassar. Jeffries. Case. Jeffries. Caston. Jeffries. Castor of Florida. Jeffries. Castro of Texas. Jeffries. Chavez de Reamer. Johnson. Sherfilis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu. Jeffries. Siscomani. Johnson. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries. Clark of New York. Jeffries. Cleaver. Jeffries. Klein. Johnson. Cloud. Johnson. Clyburn. Jeffries. Clyde. Johnson. Cohen. Jeffries. Cole. Johnson. Collins. Johnson. Comer. Johnson. Connolly. Jeffries. Correa. Correa. Costa. Jeffries. Courtney. Jeffries. Craig. Jeffries. Crane. Johnson. Crawford. Johnson. Crenshaw. Johnson. Crockett. Jeffries. Crow. Jeffries. Cuellar. Jeffries. Curtis. Johnson. Davis of Kansas. Jeffries. Davidson. Johnson. Davis of Illinois. Jeffries. Davis of North Carolina. Jeffries. Dean of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. DeGette. Jeffries. Dela Cruz. Johnson. DeLauro. Jeffries. Del Bene. Jeffries. DeLuzio. Jeffries. DeSaulnier. Jeffries. Desjardins. Johnson. Diaz-Pizito. Johnson. Diaz-Balart. Johnson. Dingle. Jeffries. Doggett. Jeffries. Donalds. Johnson. Duarte. Johnson. Duncan. Johnson. Dunn of Florida. Johnson. Edwards. Johnson.
Well,
Elsie.
at least we haven't had any votes for others
Johnson.
so far. That's
Emmer.
good. What? Why? Oh, God. Don't stand for the... So, just vote! Come on!
Johnson. Escobar. Jeffries. Eshoo. Jeffries. Espaillat. Jeffries.
פעולות הבאות.
Estes.
כשניכנס לעזה, ובהמשך הלחימה, אנחנו נגבה את מלוא המחיר מהמרצחים הללו, מבצעי הזוועות המחרידות של חמאס דאעש.
Johnson.
אני קורא שוב לאוכלוסייה הבלתי מעורבת.
I mean, I would play it, but it's...
Johnson. Finstra. Johnson. Ferguson. Johnson. Finstad. Johnson. Fishbach. Johnson.
They unfortunately don't
Fitzgerald.
have a version of it that they're
Johnson. Fitzpatrick.
dubbing it in
Johnson.
English.
Fleischman. Johnson. Fletcher. Jeffries. Flood. Johnson. Foster. Jeffries. Fushi. Jeffries. Fox. Johnson. Lois Frankel. Jeffries. Scott Franklin. Johnson. Frost. Jeffries. Fry. Johnson. Fulcher. Johnson. Gates. Johnson. Gallagher. Johnson. Gallego. Gallego. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. Johnson. Mike Garcia. Johnson. Robert Garcia. Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois. Jeffries.
We may
Garcia
have a
of
100%
Texas.
vote for Johnson. We'll see.
Jeffries.
It's almost looking like it.
Jimenez. Johnson. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries. Gomez. Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez. Johnson. Vicente Gonzalez. Vicente Gonzalez. Good of Virginia. Johnson. Gooden of Texas. Johnson. Gosar. Johnson. Gottheimer. Jeffries. Granger. Johnson. Graves of Louisiana. Johnson. Graves of Missouri. Johnson. Green of Tennessee. Johnson. Green of Texas. Jeffries. Green of Georgia. Johnson. Griffith. Johnson. Grijalva. Jeffries. Grothman. Johnson. Guest. Johnson. Guthrie. Johnson. Hageman. Johnson. Harder of California. Jeffries. Harris. Johnson. Harsbarger. Johnson. Hayes. Jeffries. Hearn. Johnson. Higgins of Louisiana. Johnson. Higgins of New York. Jeffries. Hill. Johnson. Himes. Jeffries. Henson. Johnson. Horsford. Jeffries. Houchin. Johnson. Houlihan. Jeffries. Hoyer. Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon. Jeffries. Hudson. Johnson. Huffman. Jeffries. Huizinga. Johnson. Hunt. Johnson. Issa. Johnson. Ivy. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois. Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina. Jeffries. Jackson of Texas. Johnson. Jackson Lee. Jeffries. Jacobs. Jeffries. James. Johnson. Jayapal. Jeffries. Jeffries. Jeffries.
Goodness. Stop! This is not a football game. This is not a sporting event. You don't need to be a
Johnson of
cheerleader
Georgia.
when certain names are called. What?
Jeffries. Johnson of
What
Louisiana.
on God's green earth did he even
Johnson.
say? Oh God, stop!
All. We have come here because human life is sacred.
Johnson of Ohio. Johnson. Johnson of South Dakota. Johnson. Jordan. Johnson.
I feel bad for Jordan. I kind of feel bad for Jordan, to be honest.
Joyce of Ohio.
I'm not so sure that he shouldn't have gotten it.
Joyce
And
of
that
Ohio.
What they did to him sucks.
Johnson. Joyce of Pennsylvania.
I have been told that these here are not real. I don't know. That this prayer thing that this woman's wearing, I don't remember what it's called. But I think I've seen where they say Jewish women do not wear these. So this is a Jewish-ish group that is claiming to be Jewish, but they're not really following some of the sacred practices of Jewish people.
Kelly of Pennsylvania. Johnson. Kana. Jeffries. Kiggins of Virginia. Johnson. Kildee. Jeffries. Kiley. Johnson. Kilmer. Jeffries. Kim of California. Johnson. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. Johnson. LaHood. Johnson. LaLota. Johnson. LaMalfa. Johnson. Lamborn. Johnson. Landsman. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy. Johnson. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta. Johnson. LaTurner. Johnson. Lawler. Johnson. Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. Johnson. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Ledger Fernandez. Jeffries. Lesko. Johnson. Letlow. Johnson. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk.
Mike Johnson.
Johnson. Lucas. Johnson. Luetkemeyer. Johnson. Luna. Johnson. Luttrell. Johnson. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. Johnson. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. Johnson. Mann. Johnson. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. Johnson. Mast. Johnson. Matsui. Jeffries. McBath. Jeffries. McCarthy. Johnson.
Here we go again.
McCall. Johnson. McLean. Johnson. McClellan. Jeffries. McClintock. Johnson. McCullum. Jeffries. McCormick. Johnson. McGarvey. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. Johnson. Meeks. Jeffries. Menendez. Jeffries. Ming. Jeffries. Muser. Johnson. Mfume. Jeffries. Miller of Illinois. Johnson. Miller of Ohio. Johnson. Miller of West Virginia. Johnson. Miller Meeks. Johnson. Mills.
The cat wanted my attention, but apparently didn't
Johnson.
involve me giving him a
Molinaro.
hug and holding him.
Johnson.
It's like, that's not what I wanted.
Molinar. Johnson.
Well, Netanyahu's speech
Mooney.
is over. No idea what he
Johnson.
actually said.
Moore of Alabama. Johnson. Moore of Utah. Johnson. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. Johnson. Morelli.
You might have heard some boob mooms.
Jeffries. Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy.
Yep. Lots
Johnson.
of boob
Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries. Neal. Nagoose. Jeffries. Nels. Johnson. Newhouse. Johnson. Nickel. Jeffries. Norcross. Jeffries. Norman.
All right, we've got
Johnson. None of Iowa.
an update.
Johnson. Obernolte. Johnson. Ocasio-Cortez. Jeffries. Ogles. Johnson. Omar. Jeffries. Owens. Johnson. Pallone. Jeffries. Palmer. Johnson. Panetta. Jeffries. Pappas. Jeffries. Pasquale. Jeffries. Payne. Jeffries. Pelosi.
Oh, stop. Stop. This is not a football game.
Jeffries. Peltola. Jeffries. Pence. Johnson. Perez. Jeffries. Perry. Johnson. Peters. Jeffries. Pedersen. Jeffries. Kruger. Johnson. Phillips. Jeffries. Pingree. Jeffries. Pocan. Jeffries. Porter. Jeffries. Posey. Johnson. Presley. Jeffries. Quigley. Jeffries. Ramirez. Jeffries. Raskin. Jeffries. Reschenthaler. Johnson. Rogers of Washington. Johnson. Rogers of Alabama. Johnson. Rogers of Kentucky. Johnson. Rose. Johnson. Rosendale. Johnson. Ross. Jeffries. Rouser. Johnson. Roy. Johnson. Ruiz. Jeffries. Rupersberger. Jeffries. Rutherford. Johnson. Ryan. Jeffries. Salazar. Johnson. Salinas. Jeffries. Sanchez. Jeffries. Santos. Johnson. Sarbanes. Jeffries. Scalise. Johnson. Scanlon. Jeffries. Schakowsky. Jeffries. Schiff. Jeffries. Snyder. Jeffries. Skolton, Jeffries. Schreier, Jeffries. Swikert, Johnson. Austin Scott, Johnson. David Scott, Jeffries. Scott of Virginia, Jeffries. Self, Johnson. Sessions, Johnson. Sewell, Jeffries. Sherman, Jeffries. Sherrill, Jeffries. Simpson, Johnson. Slotkin, Jeffries. Smith of Missouri, Johnson. Smith of Nebraska, Johnson. Smith of New Jersey, Johnson. Smith of Washington, Jeffries. Smucker, Johnson. Sorensen, Jeffries. Soto, Jeffries. Spanberger, Jeffries. Sparts, Johnson. Stensbury,
It's an airplane.
Jeffries.
I've been hearing some drones, but that's an airplane.
Stanton, Jeffries. Stauber, Johnson. Steele, Johnson. Stefanik, Johnson. Style, Johnson. Stubbe, Johnson. Stevens, Jeffries. Strickland, Jeffries. Strong, Johnson. Swalwell, Jeffries. Sykes,
Getting closer.
Jeffries.
We had some flashes.
Takano,
There have only been
Jeffries.
some others, but I missed them because
Tenney.
I've been focusing on other things.
Johnson. Tanadar, Jeffries. Thompson of California, Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi, Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania, Johnson. Tiffany, Johnson. Timmons, Johnson. Titus, Jeffries. Tlaib, Jeffries. Takuda, Jeffries. Tonko, Jeffries. Torres of California, Jeffries. Torres of New York, Jeffries. Trahan, Jeffries. Trone, Jeffries. Turner, Johnson. Underwood, Jeffries. Valadeo, Johnson. Van Drew, Johnson. Van Dyne, Johnson. Van Orden, Van Orden. Vargas, Jeffries. Vasquez. Jeffries. Vesey. Jeffries. Velasquez. Jeffries. Wagner. Johnson. Wahlberg. Johnson. Waltz. Johnson. Wasserman Schultz. Jeffries. Waters. Jeffries. Watson Coleman. Watson Coleman. Jeffries.
The House will come to order. The clerk, the staff, and the tellers deserve to have the attention of the House. The clerk will continue.
Weber of Texas.
I can't hear him.
Johnson. Webster of Florida.
All your pontificating doesn't do any good if we can't hear
Winstrup. Johnson. Westerman. Johnson. Wexton. Jeffries. Wild. Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries. Williams of New York. Johnson. Williams of Texas. Johnson. Wilson of Florida. Wilson of Florida. Jeffries. Wilson of South Carolina. Johnson. Whitman. Johnson. Womack.
Oh, stop. Make them stop.
Johnson. Yacom. Johnson. Zinke.
Next speaker of the People's House.
Oh, stop. I get it. You're all so proud of yourselves. He's getting the votes. We understand. We get it.
Johnson.
The clerk will now call the names of the members who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Byer. Jeffries.
Dumb. Why bother?
Boyle of Pennsylvania. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Correa. Correa. Gallego. Jeffries. Vicente Gonzalez. Vicente Gonzalez. Van Orden. Van Orden.
If there are any members who did not answer the call of the roll, they may come to the well and vote at this time.
Sorry, Yanni. Well, yep, he's elected. They got enough. Just a hair. Just a hair.
In their tallies that the total number of votes cast is 429, of which the Honorable Mike Johnson of the state of Louisiana has received 220 votes. And the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 209 votes.
Y'all get a trophy.
Therefore, the Honorable Mike Johnson of the state of Louisiana, having received a majority of the votes cast, is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives for the 118th Congress.
Look at us! We did our job!
The chair appoints the following committee to escort the speaker-elect to the chair. The gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise. The gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer. The gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Stefanik. The gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Hudson. The gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Palmer. The gentlewoman from Michigan, Mrs. McLean. The gentleman from California, Mr. McCarthy. The gentleman from Florida, Mr. Donalds. The gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Hearn. The gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Bergman. The gentlewoman from Washington, Mrs. Rogers. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Arrington. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Fallon. The gentleman from New York, Mr. Molinaro. The gentlewoman from Florida, Mrs. Carmack. The gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries. The gentlewoman from Massachusetts, Ms. Clark. The gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar. The gentleman from California, Mr. Liu. The gentlewoman from Washington, Ms. Del Bene. The gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Kleiber. The gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Neguse. The gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Escobar. The gentlewoman from Illinois, Ms. Underwood. The gentlewoman from Florida, Ms. Wasserman Schultz. The gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Kildee. The gentlewoman from California, Ms. Jacobs. The gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Crockett. And the members of the Louisiana delegation, Mr. Graves, Mr. Higgins, Ms. Letlow, Mr. Carter. The committee will retire from the chamber to escort the Speaker-elect to the chair.
So there we have it. Mike Johnson is elected Speaker. Let's see if they're making any kind of speeches outside. What about Mike Gates? What's he gotta say? Nothing from him yet, I guess.
And you're watching live coverage of the new speaker and his swearing-in ceremony, which is coming up in just a minute. Mike Johnson, Republican, Louisiana, been in Congress since first elected in 2016. He's on the Armed Services and Judiciary Committees currently. He will be taken off those committees after he becomes Speaker. And the swearing-in will happen, and potentially the House will do some business. But if they don't, we will be here to get your reaction to the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, the first Louisianian to become Speaker, and he is third in line for the presidency.
Oh, there isn't much more, I think, to really be said. Oh, I guess we gotta actually watch him get sworn in. I guess they're actually gonna show that. Excuse me. I'm gonna mute myself here while I cough.
The House will come to order. Sergeant of Arms.
Mr. Speaker, the Speaker-elect Mike Johnson from the state of Louisiana.
All right. The House will come to order.
Speaker Mike Johnson,
He hates
Speaker
this.
Emerita
He hates
Nancy
this.
Pelosi,
He hates this.
Whip Clark,
Look at his
Chairman
face.
Aguilar, all of my colleagues in government on both sides of the aisle. It's an honor and a privilege to once again stand before you as House Democratic leader. From the very beginning of this Congress, House Democrats have made clear that we will find bipartisan common ground with our Republican colleagues whenever and wherever possible for the good of the American people. And House Democrats have repeatedly done just that. It was House Democrats who provided a majority of the votes necessary to avoid a catastrophic default on our debt that would have crashed the U.S. economy and triggered a job-killing recession. It was House Democrats who provided a majority of the votes necessary to avoid a government shutdown that would have hurt everyday American. It was House Democrats who provided a majority of the votes necessary to secure $16 billion in disaster assistance for Americans whose lives have been devastated by extreme weather events. From the very beginning of this Congress, House Democrats have been governing for the people. We continue to look forward to finding bipartisan common ground whenever and wherever possible. House Democrats will continue to partner with President Biden and Senate Democrats to put people over politics. House Democrats will continue to fight for lower costs, better paying jobs, safer communities, and to build an economy from the middle out and the bottom up and not the top down. House Democrats will continue to push back against extremism in this chamber and throughout the country. House Democrats will continue to protect Social Security, protect Medicare, protect Medicaid, protect our children, protect our climate, protect low-income families, protect working families, protect the middle class, protect organized labor, protect the LGBTQ community, protect our veterans, protect older Americans, protect the Affordable Care Act, protect the right to vote, protect the peaceful transfer of power, protect our democracy, and protect a woman's freedom to make her own reproductive health care decisions. These are blue lines in the sand, and we will work hard to make sure that they are never crossed. We must also continue to stand by President Biden as he works to bring American hostages and Israeli hostages held by Hamas back home. American hostages and Israeli hostages and international hostages back home. We must also stand by our friends on the international stage. And we have no better friend in the Middle East than the State of Israel. Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish and democratic state. The special relationship between the United States and Israel is unbreakable. Our commitment to Israel's security is ironclad, and Israel has a right to defend itself under the international rules of war against the brutal terror unleashed on its citizens by Hamas. Our ironclad commitment to Israel's security and the effort to defeat Hamas is not inconsistent with the goal of achieving a lasting and just peace between Israel and the Palestinian people. In many ways, it is a necessary ingredient because Hamas is not good for Israel, Hamas is not good for America, Hamas is not good for the free world, Hamas is not good for the democratic aspirations of the Palestinian people. We must also support Ukraine in its courageous effort to defeat Russian aggression. There are only two paths in front of us. We can either stand up for Ukraine or bow down to Vladimir Putin. That is not a difficult choice. We must stand up for America's national security. We must stand up for democracy. We must stand up for freedom. We must stand up for truth. We must stand up for the Ukrainian people until victory is won. It is my expectation that in the next week or so, the Senate will send over for consideration a bipartisan national security funding package for Israel, Ukraine, and our other allies throughout the free world. That also includes humanitarian assistance for Palestinian civilians and others who may be in harm's way.
And we should be
The House
voting
of
no on it.
Representatives should take up this
But we'll see
national
what happens.
security package and humanitarian relief package immediately, in totality, and without delay. The time for gamesmanship is over. The time for brinksmanship is over. The time for partisanship is over. It's time to get back to doing the business of the American people.
The American people's focus
Let me conclude.
should be on our borders.
Let me conclude with an observation about the state of our democracy. Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election. He's doing a great job under difficult circumstances, and no amount of election denialism will ever change that reality. Not now, not ever. Throughout the years, presidents from Ronald Reagan to Barack Obama, Dwight Eisenhower to Lyndon Baines Johnson have spoken to this chamber and urged us to put aside partisan politics for the good of the American people. President Lincoln spoke to this Congress on December 1st, 1862, in the middle of the Civil War, and noted that we in this institution had the power and bore the responsibility to save the Union. The stakes were high. As articulated by President Lincoln, we could either nobly save or meanly lose America as we know it, the last best hope on earth. This is a turbulent time in the American journey, and we have but one charge to keep during this moment of great fragility.
I don't understand
Our
why he's
union
speaking.
must
Can we
be
just
sustained.
Just
Our
swear 'em in
union
already.
must be strengthened. Our union must succeed. There are many throughout this country who are understandably alarmed at the turbulence of the moment, at the chaos, the dysfunction, and the extremism that has been unleashed in this chamber from the very beginning of this Congress. But this too shall pass. Our country has often confronted adversity, and the good news is we always find a way to make it to the other side. We faced adversity in the 1860s, in the middle of the Civil War, when the country was literally tearing itself apart. We faced adversity in October of 1929, when the stock market collapsed, plunging us into a Great Depression. We faced adversity in December of 1941, when a foreign power unexpectedly struck, plunging us into a world war with the evil empire of Nazi Germany. We faced adversity in the Deep South in the 1950s and 60s, when the country was struggling to reconcile the inherent contradictions between Jim Crow segregation and the glorious promises of the Constitution. We faced adversity on September 11th, 2001, when the towers and the Pentagon were unexpectedly struck, killing thousands of lives in an instant. We faced adversity right here in the House of Representatives, when on January 6, 2021, a violent mob of insurrectionists, incited by some in this chamber, overran the House floor as part of an effort to halt the peaceful transfer of power. Every time we face adversity, the good news here in America is that we always overcome. That is the power of American exceptionalism.
This is why you won't
that
have
is why America is the land of the free and the home of the brave. That is why I remain optimistic about the future of this country. That is why America is the last best hope on earth. God bless you. God bless the House of Representatives. God bless the United States of America. It is now my solemn honor and responsibility to hand over the People's Gavel here in the United States House of Representatives to a family man, a hardworking man, a Baptist man, a Southern man, a son of a firefighter's household, the gentleman from the great state of Louisiana, and the 56th Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, the Honorable Mike Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. First, a few words of gratitude. I want to thank Leader Jeffries. I do look forward to working with you on behalf of the American people. I know we see things from very different points of view, but I know that in your heart you love and care about this country and you want to do what's right. And so we're going to find common ground there, all right?
But when it comes to something like Ukraine, there's no finding common ground there.
I want to express my great thanks for our Speaker Emeritus, Kevin McCarthy. Kevin has dedicated over 2 decades of his life to selfless public service, 16 of those years in this House. And you would be hard-pressed to find anybody who loves this institution more or has contributed more to it. He is the reason we're in this majority today. His impact can never be overstated, and I want to thank him for his leadership, his friendship, and the selfless sacrifice that you and Judy have made for so many years. You helped build it, Kevin, and we owe you a great debt of gratitude. I want to thank the dedicated and overworked staff of this beleaguered House. They accept praise so stoically. But Miss Susan Cole, our House reading clerk, and yes. Listen, all the clerks and all the staff, you know, they're terribly overworked. This has been a grueling process, but they have served an integral role in keeping our republic, and we thank them for that service. I know we all do. I want to thank my dedicated wife of almost 25 years, Kelly. She's not here. We couldn't get a flight in time. This happened sort of suddenly. But we're going to celebrate soon. She spent the last couple of weeks on her knees in prayer to the Lord, and she's a little worn out. We all are. I want to thank our children, Michael and Hannah and Abby and Jack and Will. All of our children sacrifice. All of them do, and we know that. And there's not a lot of perks to being a member of Congress's kid, right? And so I want to thank all of your families as well for what they endure and what they've had to endure for the last few weeks. We've been here a while. Yeah. I want to thank my faithful mother, Jeannie Johnson, who bore me at the age of 17, and my brothers Chris and Josh, and my sister Laura, and all their families, and all of our extended family. In Louisiana, family's a big deal, and we got a bunch of them. I especially want to thank all the extraordinary people of the great state of Louisiana. We have never had a Speaker of the House hail from our state, and so they've been lifting us up. I thank the people of Louisiana for the opportunity to serve you in Congress, and I'm humbled by your continuous support. We will make you proud. To my colleagues, I want to thank you all for the trust that you have instilled in me to lead us in this historic and unprecedented moment that we're in. The challenge before us is great, but the time for action is now, and I will not let you down. I want to say to the American people, on behalf of all of us here, we hear you. We know the challenges you're facing. We know that there's a lot going on in our country, domestically and abroad, and we are ready to get to work again to solve those problems, and we will. Our mission here is to serve you well, to restore the people's faith in this House, in this great and essential institution. My dad, it was mentioned, my dad was a firefighter. He was an assistant chief in the fire department in my hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana, a little town in northwest Louisiana. On September 17, 1984, when I was 12 years old, he was critically burned and permanently disabled in the line of duty. All I ever wanted to be when I grew up was the chief of the fire department in Shreveport. But after the explosion on that fateful day, he nearly died, and it was a long road back, and it's changed all of our life trajectories. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. And my dad, he lived with pain all the rest of his life for decades more. And I lost my dad to cancer 3 days before I got elected to Congress, 3 days. And he wanted to be there at my election night so badly. I'm the first college graduate in my family. This was a big deal to him. And so it was several weeks after that. It was early 2017. It was my freshman term, and it fell to me to be in the rostrum one night to serve here as Speaker Pro Tem. I thought that was a big deal until I figured out that's what you do for freshmen late at night. And I think if my memory serves, Miss Jackson Lee was winding down one of her long, eloquent speeches. And not that I was not enraptured by her speech, but I looked up at the top in the chamber there, and I saw the face of Moses staring down. And I just felt in that moment the weight of this place, right? The history that is revered here and the future that we are called to forge. And I really was just kind of almost overwhelmed with emotion. It occurred to me in that moment, it had been several weeks, and I had not had an opportunity yet to grieve my dad's passing, and I just had this sense that somehow he knew. And I had tears come to my eyes, and I was standing here, and I'm wiping them away, and then it suddenly occurs to me, the late night C-SPAN viewers are going to think something's very wrong with the new young congressman from Louisiana. It wasn't Sheila's speech. I'm sorry. I just knew in that moment that my dad, my father would be proud of me, and I felt that he was. And I think all of our parents are proud of what we're called to do here. I think all the American people at one time had great pride in this institution, but right now, that's in jeopardy. And we have a challenge before us right now to rebuild and restore that trust. This is a beautiful country. It's the beauty of America that allows a firefighter's kid like me to come here and serve in this sacred chamber where great men and women have served before all of us and strive together to build and then preserve what Lincoln did refer to as the last best hope of man on earth. We stand at a very dangerous time. I'm stating the obvious. We all know that. The world is in turmoil. But a strong America is good for the entire world. We are the beacon of freedom, and we must preserve this grand experiment in self-governance. It still is. We're only 247 years into this grand experiment. We don't know how long it will last, but we do know that the founders told us to take good care of it. I want to tell all my colleagues here what I told the Republicans in that room last night. I don't believe there are any coincidences in a matter like this. I believe that Scripture, the Bible, is very clear. That God is the one that raises up those in authority. He raised up each of you, all of us. And I believe that God has ordained and allowed each one of us to be brought here for this specific moment in this time. This is my belief. I believe that each one of us has a huge responsibility today to use the gifts that God has given us to serve the extraordinary people of this great country, and they deserve it. And to ensure that our republic remains standing as the great beacon of light and hope and freedom in a world that desperately needs it. It was in 1962 that our national motto, "In God We Trust," was adorned above this rostrum. And if you look at the little guide that they give tourists and constituents who come and visit the house, if you turn in there to about page 14 in the middle of that guide, it tells you the history of this. And it says very simply, these words were placed here above us. This motto was placed here as a rebuke of the Cold War era philosophy of the Soviet Union. That philosophy was Marxism and communism, which begins with the premise that there is no God. This is a critical distinction that is also articulated in our nation's birth certificate. We know the language well, the famous second paragraph that we used to have children memorize in school, and they don't do that so often anymore, but they should. G.K. Chesterton was the famous British philosopher and statesman, and he said one time, "America is the only nation in the world that is founded upon a creed." And he said it's listed with almost theological lucidity in the Declaration of Independence. What is our creed? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, not born equal, created equal. And they are endowed by the same inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That is the creed that has animated our nation since its founding, that has made us the great nation that we are. And we're in a time of extraordinary crisis right now. And the world needs us to be strong. They need us to remember our creed and our admonition. Turmoil and violence have rocked the Middle East and Eastern Europe. We all know it. And tensions continue to build in the Indo-Pacific. The country demands strong leadership of this body and we must not waver. Our nation's greatest ally in the Middle East is under attack. The first bill that I'm going to bring to this floor in just a little while will be in support of our dear friend Israel, and we're overdue in getting that done. We're going to show not only Israel, but the entire world that the barbarism of Hamas that we have all seen play out on our television screens is wretched and wrong, and we are going to stand for the good in that conflict. We have a catastrophe at our southern border. The Senate and the White House can no longer ignore the problem.
Moratorium
From Texas to New York, wave after wave of illegal migrants are stressing our communities to their breaking points. We know that our streets are being flooded with fentanyl,
where we need
and
to be giving
all
shit to
of our
anybody.
communities, children,
Absolutely none.
and even adults are dying from it. The status quo is unacceptable. Inaction is unacceptable, and we must come together and address the broken border. We have to do it.
The border situation needs to be an all hands on deck. All hands on deck. We shouldn't be focused on anything else.
The skyrocketing cost of living is unsustainable, and Americans should not have to worry about how they're going to feed their family every week because they can't afford their groceries anymore. Everybody in this room should think about this. Here's the stats. Prices have increased over 17% in the last 2 years. Credit card interest rates are at the highest level in nearly 3 decades, and mortgage rates are now at a peak we haven't seen since 2001. We have to bring relief to the American people by reining in federal spending and bringing down inflation. The greatest threat to our national security is our nation's debt. And while we've been sitting in this room, that's right, the debt has crossed almost $33.6 trillion. In the time that it's going to take me to deliver this speech, we'll go up another $20 million in debt. It's unsustainable. We have to get the country back on track. Now, we know this is not going to be an easy task, and tough decisions will have to be made. But the consequences, if we don't act now, are unbearable. We have a duty to the American people to explain this to them so they understand it well. And we are going to establish a bipartisan debt commission to begin working on this crisis immediately. We all know that we also live in a time of bitter partisanship. It was noted, and it's been on display here today. Right? When our people are losing their faith in government, when they're losing sight of the principles that made us the greatest nation in the history of the world, I think we got to be mindful of that. We're going to fight. We're going to fight vigorously over our core principles because they're at odds a lot of times now in this modern era. We have to sacrifice sometimes our preferences because that's what's necessary in a legislative body. But we will defend our core principles to the end. In his farewell address, thank you. In his farewell address, President Reagan explained the secret of his rapport with people. And I like to paraphrase his explanation all the time. He said, you know, they call me the great communicator, but I really wasn't that. He said, I was just communicating great things. And they're the same great things that have guided our nation since its founding. What are those great things? I call them the 7 core principles of American conservatism, but let me concede to you all, I think it's really quintessentially the core principles of our nation. I boil them down to individual freedom, limited government, the rule of law, peace through strength, fiscal responsibility, free markets, and human dignity. Those are the foundations that made us the extraordinary nation that we are. And you and I today are the stewards
There are a lot
of
of
those
people
principles.
that don't like
The things that have made us the freest, most powerful, most
that
successful
usually
nation in the
involves us
history of the
taking some
world.
kind of military
The things that have made us truly exceptional. In this time of great crisis, it is our duty to work together, as previous generations of great leaders have, to face these great challenges and solve these great problems. I will conclude with this. The job of the Speaker of the House is to serve the whole body, and I will. But I've made a commitment to my colleagues here that this Speaker's office is going to be known for decentralizing the power here. My office is going to be known for members being more involved and having more influence in our processes and all the major decisions that are made here, for predictable processes and regular order. We owe that to the people. That's right. And I want to make this commitment to you, to my colleagues here and on the other side of the aisle as well. My office is going to be known for trust and transparency and accountability, for good stewardship of the people's treasure, for the honesty and integrity that is incumbent upon us, all of us, here in the people's house. Our system of government is not a perfect system. It's got a lot of challenges, but it is still the best one in the world, and we have an opportunity to preserve it. Last thing I'm going to say is a message to the rest of the world. They have been watching this drama play out for a few weeks. We've learned a lot of lessons, but you know what? Through adversity, it makes you stronger. And yeah, and we want our allies around the world to know that this body of lawmakers is reporting again to our duty stations. Let the enemies of freedom around the world hear us loud and clear. The People's House is back in business. Thank you. Thank you. We will do our duty here. We will serve you well. We will govern well, and we'll make you proud in this institution again. We're gonna fight every day to make sure that is true. I look forward to the days ahead. I genuinely believe in my heart that the best days of America are still ahead of us. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you. I'm now ready to take the oath of office, and I ask the Dean of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Harold Rogers of Kentucky, to please administer the oath of office.
Mr. Speaker Designee, congratulations on your election.
Thank you, sir.
When our founding fathers chose a bold, new, and innovative new self-rule government, it was met by deep skepticism by the world's monarchs. They said self-rule is only a dream. Our founders said they're right. It's the American dream.
Amen.
Now it's our dream. We're in charge. The speakership of the United States House of Representatives is the crucial outpost for the well-being of the people's government, the keeper, if you will, of the dream. Sir, if you wish to assume this awesome responsibility, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to enter. So help you God?
I do, so help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Would y'all like to get right into governing? For what purpose does the gentleman from Louisiana seek recognition?
Not going to be too much
Mr.
longer
Speaker.
before I end the stream.
That is a nice ring to it, by the way. Mr. Speaker, I offer a privilege resolution to notify the Senate of the election of Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House of Representatives and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Resolution 810. Resolved that a message be sent to the Senate to inform that body that Mike Johnson, a representative from the state of Louisiana, has been elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Without objection, the resolution is agreed to, and the motion to consider is laid on the table. For what purpose does the gentleman from Louisiana seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, to notify President Biden of the election of Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House, I offer a privilege resolution and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Resolution 811. Resolved that the clerk be instructed to inform the President of the United States that the House of Representatives has elected Mike Johnson, a representative from the state of Louisiana, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Without objection, the resolution is agreed to, and the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Thank you. All right. The chair would take this occasion to note that the speakers announced policies with respect to particular aspects of the legislative process placed in the record on January 9, 2023 will continue in effect for the remainder of the 118th Congress. The chair announces that the speaker has delivered to the clerk a letter dated October 25th, 2023, listing members in the order in which each shall act as Speaker pro tempore under Clause 8B3 of Rule 1. The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable, the Speaker, House of Representatives. I hereby designate Representative Steve Scalise to exercise any authority regarding assembly, reassembly, convening, or reconvening of the House pursuant to House Concurrent Resolution 1, Clause 12 of Rule 1, and any concurrent resolution of the concurrent Congress as may contemplate my designation of members to exercise similar authority. In the event of the death or inability of that designee, the alternate members of the House listed in the letter bearing this date that I have placed with the clerk are designated in turn for the same purpose. Signed sincerely, Mike Johnson, Speaker.
The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable Kevin F. McCumber, Clerk of the House, Washington, D.C. Mr. Clerk, I hereby appoint the Honorable Patrick McHenry, the Honorable Adrian Smith, the Honorable Andy Harris, the Honorable Guy Reschenthaler, the Honorable Rob Whitman, the Honorable Ben Klein, the Honorable Richard Hudson, and the Honorable John Joyce to act as Speaker pro tempore to sign and roll bills and joint resolutions through the remainder of the 118th Congress. Signed sincerely, Mike Johnson, Speaker.
Without objection, the appointments are approved, and the House will be in recess subject to a call of chair pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1. We'll be back soon. Yep, there we go.
And the House is
well, there you go. I thought we
scheduled
were
to come
going to
back
vote
in just a few
immediately.
minutes and debate a resolution supporting Israel. And
vote for
we will
Israel.
certainly go live to that when that happens. But the new Speaker of the House is Mike Johnson, 51 years old, represents
I don't
the
know when
4th
that's
District
gonna
of
be, and I'm
Louisiana.
afraid
In
that I
fact,
have to
his
go to work,
hometown
so
newspaper about a half an hour ago had this
Thank
headline.
you for the handful
Who
of viewers
is
that we
Louisiana
have.
Congressman
I
Mike
appreciate
Johnson? And Greg
God
Hilburn
bless-
writes that there's likely a lot of
God
Googling
bless
Mike
Israel.
Johnson on Capitol Hill and throughout
God
America,
bless
as
America.
he seems
God
poised
bless
to
our
grab the Speaker's gavel after
See you,
3
House.
weeks of chaos in the House.